Thank you very much. I'd like to call the Transportation Committee meeting to order. And let's start out with Clerk. Could you open the roll for taking attendance?
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. A couple of preliminary matters. Here's what we're going to do today. We're first going to do some housekeeping stuff on 5 bills, and then I'm going to introduce our new Secretary of Transportation and let him address the group. And then we will deal with Senator Boysko's bill on the Greenway. And we're going to hear testimony on both sides, but I wanted the Secretary of Transportation to be able to hear that discussion and offer him the courtesy of having a week to review that, because there will be a role perhaps for the administration to play depending on how the vote goes, and we would like to hear the administration's positions on that if practicable. And then we will start next after that with Senator Deeds if he is here, and we'll move on through the docket. But first, I'd like a motion to take Senate Bill 220, Senate Bill 180, Senate Bill 277, and Senate Bill 368 by for the week. Can I have a motion? We have a motion and a second to take that by for the week. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, those bills are by for the week.
Mr. Chairman, can you just repeat those a little slower?
Senate Bill 220, Senate Bill 180, Senate Bill 277, Senate Bill 368 are by for the week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Suderline. Also would like a motion to strike Senate Bill 320, Senator Vogel's bill, which I believe that's a recorded vote. Do we have a motion on that? We have a motion and a second. Clerk, you open the roll.
Ayes 11, no 0.
Mr. Chairman, to help clean your docket up, if you would, I ask that you also strike SB 333. I spoke with you about the speed limits on that, and I'm going to ask you to do a letter, as we discussed, with the hump speed bumps, instead of, if you want to go ahead and strike that now to save yourself time.
Thank you so much. We have a motion and a second to strike. What number was that? 333. Clerk, would you open the rolls? Vote yay if you want to strike it, nay if you don't.
Ayes 13, no 0.
Ayes 13, no 0. The bill is stricken. So we're moving right along. It is my honor and privilege and pleasure to introduce the Secretary of Transportation, W. Shep Miller. W. Shep Miller III was appointed to the Commonwealth Transportation Board in June 2018 by Governor Ralph Northam, where he has supported funding highway and rail projects. And he has been an 8-year, I believe, member of the Commonwealth Transportation Board, so he comes well recommended, with one exception. He went to Hampton-Sydney.
Go Tigers.
And for a Randolph-Macon man, I'm just getting surrounded with Senators Lewis and Senator Stanley, and now the Secretary of Transportation. It's a tough spot to be in, but we'll let it go for now. Secretary Miller, the floor is yours. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it very much. And to your colleagues, senators, as I came before your sister organization in the House a couple weeks ago, my remarks will be similar, and in some cases, unfortunately, similar. But I had the pleasure of being part of the Senate staff in 1980 as a legislative aide to Senator Herb Bateman, who I sort of cut my teeth with after college, and did some campaign work and came here as an aide. So it's taken me a while to get back. It's really nice to be here and be in your company, and I appreciate you having me.
Sir.
I'm here to assure you that I will execute on Governor Youngkin's Game 1 Day plan and work with all of you and the governor to invest in transportation priorities that jumpstart jobs and to keep people moving in every corner of the Commonwealth. Governor Youngkin has promised to invest more money in the roads and highways, and we're going to be very focused on investing that money smartly, wisely, efficiently, just the best that we possibly can. The governor also recognizes the rising cost of living, including fuel costs, and he has been working with the legislature to provide some relief on the motor vehicle fuels tax. I'm here to assure you that with the additional federal and state monies that are flowing into transportation, there's absolutely money to continue to invest in transportation while focusing on needed projects and while easing the burden on our taxpayers. From the 6-year plan that the Commonwealth Transportation Board adopted recently, there's about $2 billion of additional monies after the proposed cuts, $2 billion that will flow into transportation in the next 6 years. So that's after any cuts are made that have been projected, $2 billion extra dollars. $500 million will likely come from the Highway Maintenance Fund after covering additional costs, because there's $1 billion that rolls into that. There's about $1 billion of federal money that's earmarked to us right now that's in the system. And there's about $500 million of extra construction money. So that totals $2 billion, not including any discretionary money that we're able to get. And we're going to be very, very aggressive on going after federal discretionary money to benefit the Commonwealth. We'll be all in on day one to execute on our plan to secure more than our fair share of this money. And that gives me a nice little opportunity to introduce to you one of our new deputies, Jen Deasy. Jen, if you'll just stand and wave. Jen comes to us after about 10 years on Capitol Hill, working on transportation in the Senate banking. She has also been part of MVTC. She knows transportation at the federal level, and that's why she's here with us in Virginia today. She's going to be our point person along with the rest of our team to make sure that we go get more than our fair share of that discretionary money. In 4 years, as we look back, I want to be able to say that Virginia has fully leveraged its transportation assets to create jobs and to achieve sustained economic growth all across Virginia. Now, let me talk a little bit about VDOT. One thing we want to really be focused on and make sure we do very well is deliver these mega projects that we have on time and on budget. So we've got the HRBT, the biggest project in the history of the Commonwealth, that I've been driving through daily for many years. And we need to make sure that comes to fruition on time and on budget. It's getting a lot of our attention. And no reason to think we won't, but it's a complicated, difficult project. So we're very focused on that. That will help us jumpstart jobs and keep our economy moving. The I-66 outside the Beltway, another huge project. We'll keep that on track to open in late 2022. I-81. We need to continue to advance the work in this corridor to increase safety, ease congestion, and provide economic opportunity. And we'll be continuing to focus on 81. It's a vital corridor for the Commonwealth. But we'll look for some other opportunities, like the I-64 gap, Senator Spruill. So maybe when your commute to Richmond with Senator Cosgrove and Senator Steph will be a little bit easier if we can close that narrow straw between Hampton Roads and the capital city. Aviation, as I turn to that, airport leakage. We've got about 30% leakage from our airports in Virginia, where people drive past our airports in Virginia to go to airports in other states. And we want to try to find a way to increase the participation in Virginia's airports to slow down that leakage. And we're working with the airlines and talking to them and the airports on how to do that. We've just hired a new head of our aviation group, a longtime Virginia aviation person who will be, if it hadn't been announced, will be announced soon. We're very excited about that opportunity. Rail and transit, and Jennifer Mitchell, our director, is here with me today. The Western Rail Initiative, expansion of the rail to Southwest Virginia. The Amtrak line to Roanoke is currently the only profitable one in Virginia. In the last budget, the General Assembly funded an extension to serve Christiansburg and the New River Valley. We are purchasing 28 miles of track to support that. Upon the close of our agreements, we will also have the ability to add a second state-supported Amtrak train on the Roanoke to Boston route. General Assembly has also told me to study the extension of rail to Bristol, and we're doing so. We understand that rail is a component of getting traffic off I-81, which is important to our long-term economic development needs, and I look forward to studying that issue further and working with you on it. Transit, we will examine the long-term impacts that COVID has had on ridership, and will be adjusting our plans as necessary to include measures to address that. We also want to add performance metrics to ensure that we're getting the best bang for our buck, and will investigate innovative ways to provide service. Virginia Port Authority. The deepening and widening of the Norfolk Channel that allows for bidirectional passage of ultra-large cargo vessels will be completed in 2025. That's a very important thing for the Commonwealth. We will work with VDEP and others to ensure that we will be able to take advantage of the economic opportunity and job creation possibilities that this will bring. So we're going to have a pretty big focus on the opportunity for companies to come in here on available sites and get to work, build some buildings, put some people to work, and service the port. Because the port at the end of the day is an engine for Virginia. It's not in and of itself. It's real value to Virginia is what it can do to grow jobs and grow opportunity beyond the confines of the port itself. The Virginia Space Flight Authority. Previous investments have delivered a world-class launch site there. We will continue to partner with NASA to support the international space stations with resupply missions as well as other scientific and national security missions. But we will also aggressively pursue new customers and other economic development opportunities like the Rocket Labs development that was recently announced. And I think we've got a launch coming up on the 19th, I think it is, of February. That's a launch that will send one of these rockets up to resupply the space station. Pretty neat stuff, and there's a really great opportunity with the Space Flight Authority. DMV has gotten a lot of attention. On day one, now day 9, we will be open for business. We will lead our folks to ensure that we're providing the best-in-class customer service at the DMV. We will reinstitute more in-person opportunity, including providing more times that are convenient to our customers. And I will work closely with our new Office of Transformation Chief, Eric Mueller, to conduct a thorough review of our operations to ensure that we have the tools, resources, and infrastructure necessary to fully, efficiently serve our customers. I told you about one of the unfortunate things that I was going to repeat today that I did 2 weeks ago. It's called snow. So welcome to the job. We'll have 3 states of emergency in the first 10 days, and we're going to have another snowstorm, folks. It appears that it will be across the state, with the western part of the state getting a lot less than the eastern part of the state. We're thinking 6 inches, 8 inches or so in eastern Virginia, including the eastern shore. And so we are very focused on making sure that we do the same job we've done over the last 10 days to keep our roads safe, to keep them passable, and to keep commerce moving in Virginia. So we're taking it seriously. We're trying to get ahead of it. And I think we did, our crew and emergency management, I think, did a pretty darn good job. We were very happy with the results over the last 10 days. But we got another one coming. So I'd urge you and your colleagues and your constituents to stay off the roads if you don't have to be on them. And that'll allow us to do our best work and get them cleared and ready to go and keep them safe for you. So we have much work to do, and there's lots of hard work ahead. Yet these are really exciting times. And I am privileged to be part of this administration. I'm privileged to be here in front of you and to work with you all to advance transportation in Virginia. And I couldn't be more honored and enthusiastic to support Governor Youngkin and to work with all of you to achieve these goals. So I appreciate very much you having me, Senator, and I love the Yellow Jackets, unless they're playing Hampton Tigers.
I know. It's tough. It's pretty close now it's one of the oldest games in the country.
It is.
And the visiting team usually wins. It's a strange thing. Just
The oldest guys in the country.
Hey. Let's have any old talk here. Thank you. The one question I had, Secretary Miller, the governor had mentioned a suspension of the gas tax, and the history on that has been that yes, that shows up at the pump immediately and then comes back over a matter of days or weeks to back where the price was, and so it doesn't work its way to the intended recipients of that largesse, and it becomes a gift to the gas companies. Is there anything to report on whether that is still part of the governor's plan?
Sir, I believe it's still part of the governor's plan at this moment. And if it's when and if it's not, then I will be aware of that and we'll let you know.
Okay, just beware of how the pricing works, and we don't want to make that. We want to make that anything that you do help for the citizens of the Commonwealth, and not that of the gas companies.
Yes, sir.
Members of the panel, any questions? We have. Let's start it down at the end with Senator Spruill, and then go to Senator Eben and Senator Cosgrove. Those three? All right. Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the members of the committee, and those who are in the audience, I could not be more prouder of Shep Miller. I knew him for a long time. He would do us a good job. He's an honorable man. He's a fair man. And what I like about it most, that I know if we get snowed in, I know he would drive to Chesapeake and pick up me and my friend John Cosgrove and bring us to Richmond. So I love him for that. Sir, congratulations. Glad to have you aboard.
Thank you, Senator. I'll be there at a moment's notice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for your work on the CTB, and thank you for being with us today. I did want to just follow up. The chairman mentioned Governor Youngkin's proposed cut in the gas tax, and I was wondering, what will you cut in terms of funding with the foregone revenue that tax brings us?
Senator, as I indicated to you, there's $2 billion extra dollars right now that we've identified after those tax cuts that is not part of the 6-year plan for construction in Virginia. So it's not about cutting. It's really about how do we put that $2 billion to its best use? How do we manage the process? How do we ensure that the contractor base is sufficient to do the work? How do we assure ourselves and our citizens that we spend that money wisely and not frivolously in any way? And how do we select the best projects, aside from any other structure we have, to get that done? So we've got a challenge, frankly, and I'm counting on our team to go get some more money. So I think that $2 billion is going to grow. So we're $2 billion beyond where we would be with the cuts in place.
If I might follow up, Mr. Chair.
Senator Abbott.
It's my understanding that a lot of that money from the gas tax goes for maintenance, and it's my position that our roads could be even better maintained than they are.
Got it. Thank you.
Cut the grass on the side of the roads, but we could also do important paving projects. And in terms of the $2 billion, it's my understanding that the tunnel that's needed for Metro in Roslyn alone, just to help the Virginia expansion of the Silver Line and our commuters to get into D.C., those that commute that way, I think that's a multi-billion-dollar project in and of itself. So I would just, my own position is that we should exercise caution before we get rid of revenue. And, I think the transportation needs are great, so I hope that you'll reconsider that.
Senator, I appreciate your thoughts, and I would just tell you, I can't give you a lot of detail on the Metro Roslyn Tunnel. I can tell you that we will continue to look at our metrics. We have metrics by which we measure what we're doing and whether we're being satisfactory or beyond in terms of all these kinds of things you've talked about, particularly maintenance. So we'll continue to be looking at that. The Transportation Board helps us set those measurements, and we've been doing pretty well, although I can understand what you're saying about maintenance along the sides of the highways. But to my point I made earlier, there's about $1 billion of extra money coming to highway maintenance that's not programmed. We think there's about $200 million that we can put our finger on and say, 200 or 300 million, this is what we're going to do with it in the next 6 years. But that leaves $500 to $600 to $700 million. That's part, I use 500 to be conservative, part of the $2 billion that flows back to construction if it's not used for maintenance. So we're going to make all those decisions as you recommend appropriately. We're going to look at our needs, and we're going to go from there. But I appreciate the question.
Thank you, Senator Evans. Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I've known Shep a long time, and I cannot think of anyone better to serve as Secretary of Transportation of the Commonwealth of Virginia than Shep Miller. Shep served on the Commonwealth Transportation Board. He's not going to brag on himself, so we're going to have to do it. He served on the Commonwealth Transportation Board for years. He has built and sold businesses. He can see the ports of Virginia from his house. He brings an incredible amount of experience, both in business and in transportation, to this job. And when I heard that Shep was being proposed as a secretary, the first thing I told the governor was, that's great. So you listen to this man, what he says, he means. He's not going to steer you wrong. He is an honorable man, a good man, and just perfect for this job. So, Shep, welcome aboard. Look forward to serving with you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
John, you told the
Thank
truth. You told the truth, John.
Thank you, Senator Cosgrove. Although I will say, Secretary Miller, that the thought of spending 4 to 5 hours in a snowstorm driving to Richmond with Senators Cosgrove and Spruill is unimaginable.
So
Senator Newman.
I'll leave that alone.
Secretary Miller, welcome. You're actually a sight for sore eyes. I know that you had to be enticed into doing this. You had a pretty good career. You had served the Commonwealth very well. You'd retired from your business, and a lot of people twisted your arms, and you said yes. And I want to thank you for doing that. You've got the intellect. You also have the experience to be a remarkable secretary. I want you to know, too, that I think a lot of working Virginians out there are really rooting for getting some of this gas tax back in their family's hands. So there is a division of thought on that, and that's okay. It's the legislative process, but going through some tough times, there are a lot of people that don't live in Northern Virginia, and they go to work every day, and they make it. And right now, gas is high, and they're looking for an opportunity to have just for 1 year, an opportunity. So, Shep, I'm delighted that you said yes. I'm relieved you said yes, and look forward to working with you over the next 4 years, sir.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Senator Newman. Senator Servo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have permission to ask a series of questions without having to go back through you again.
Granted.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, it's good to see you. Look forward to meeting you. I haven't shaken your hand yet. But first of all, it looks like you barely fit at that podium. How tall are you?
I started at 6'6". I think I've been beaten down a quarter of an inch or so.
Okay. Good. So I'm going to follow up on Senator Evans' question, and I got a couple others. So when I first was elected in 2009, the VDOT used to put out a report every year called VTrans, and they would update it about every 5 or 10 years. And you've probably seen it be on CTB. In the last version of VTrans I saw, they had done an estimate of our unfunded project needs over the next 20 years. And my recollection is that when we voted on the transportation bill, the McDonald bill, I think it was HB 2313, in 2013, the estimated unfunded need by VDOT at the time was $120 billion over 20 years. Then the bill we passed that year, I think, generated about an additional $1 billion a year after funding our unfunded maintenance need. So in other words, we plugged about 1/5 of what was projected to be the unfunded capital needs in the state over the next 20 years with that bill in 2013. And then I think last year we added a little bit more money to it. But at least, back of the envelope math, from my perspective, in terms of where our tax revenue is relative to the need that VDOT projected 10 years ago, we're still probably not even 50% of the way there. So I'm just curious where you get your numbers to think that we have a lot of extra money and don't have a lot of things to pay for, because I'm having a hard time seeing that when I can identify probably about $20 to $40 billion of projects in Northern Virginia I could get started on right now if anybody gave me the money to do it.
Senator, I can't go back to the VTrans numbers that you're speaking of today, but I'll be happy to do that. What I'm speaking about, and listen, transportation is like almost anything else that's big. There's never, there's always wants and desires that outstrip our willingness and ability to pay for them. It's just that simple. Certainly, the transportation authorities that have been created have helped a lot, and the work that y'all did to create that some years back. So we've raised many billions of dollars in Hampton roads, as you know, and same thing in Northern Virginia and now in Richmond. So that's helped us a lot. I would tell you that the numbers that I'm speaking to you about are our base plan at the CTB and a 6-year plan that we approved last year. And our base was the number that I'm referencing, that it's grown beyond that after the cuts by $2 billion. And so is the $2 billion sufficient for everything in the world? Of course not. But is it substantially more than we were intending to spend to do what we needed to do? And to, particularly on the highway maintenance side, yes, it is. And so that's what I'm referencing, is we have a plan. CTB's approved it. It's a 6-year plan. And now we find ourselves, after the cuts, with about $2 billion more before we go get any more. And that's significant in my view. So that's what I'm referencing.
Okay, well, I'll just highlight a couple of things. First of all, when I was a kid, VDOT used to mow the grass more than like once or twice a year. And now in Northern Virginia, we seem to grow hay in our medians because that's all that's willing to be funded. And I get complaints about it from local government. I get complaints about it from constituents. The grass literally gets to be 2 feet high until VDOT comes in and funds it. And they used to do that a lot more. In addition, we had situations where our pavement in Northern Virginia, you can actually see the dirt in the ground under it because VDOT basically stopped repaving roads for about 3 or 4 years until 2014 when the money finally came through to start doing it again. And so I would submit that we're not even meeting our maintenance needs today. We'd start mowing the grass regularly, start on a regular paving schedule. I can think of 2 bridges in my district right now that flood regularly because of climate change and increased rain and floods. And the only way VDOT told me we could get it funded was for the thing to basically be about to fall down. And we actually had one road in my district last year that we shut down because the bridge became unsafe and they had to close it. And now we have a temporary bridge up right now on that road so that people could still drive through. So it's submit that the maintenance needs are massive, and I don't think there's any room to cut. But my next question is, in your comments, I didn't hear you say anything about Metro. And if you look around Northern Virginia, which powers the bulk of this economy in terms of tax revenue, in terms of what pays for our schools, higher ed, and everything else, the income taxes that come in Northern Virginia, all the construction cranes are around metro stations. Metro is what, and transit is what is driving the Northern Virginia economy. Businesses look to locate in Nova to be near transit because that's what young people want. Okay? And we got the nice silver line, but Prince William County and Fairfax County would like to see the yellow line, the blue line extended south to Prince William to deal with 95, and that's probably 10 to 20, $25 billion project after you pay for the tunnel that Senator Eben mentioned under the Roslyn, and perhaps another line over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. Metro is about to come out with their core capacity study in like 12 months, where they're going to come to us and say they need billions of dollars. How do you all plan to pay for that?
Sir, I can't answer that question today, but I'll be happy to try to get back to you and give you an answer. I would tell you that, as you are well aware, and as I referenced earlier in my comments, transit is taking a huge hit during the pandemic. What's it going to be when it's over? Is it going to be bigger? Is it going to be less? Or, how's this whole shift going to change and working and so forth? I wish I knew the answer, but all you have to do is go down and look anecdotally and it's like, where'd everybody go? I mean, we're seeing 80% declines places. So we've got to be very careful as we look at new projects and as we look at the future that we understand what we think is going to really happen. And I just don't know that yet. I don't think anybody knows that yet. There's lots of questions, and we're going to look hard at it. So
Okay, I appreciate that. And my last question is, and I can appreciate the fact there's uncertainty about transit, et cetera. I would just note that the Commonwealth is currently investing about $1 billion in a bus rapid transit right down the spine of the 36th Senate District on Route 1 to Fort Belvoir, and with the hope of bringing Metro. But with all these investments in transit we're seeing between the Silver Line, bus rapid transit, we're planning other bus rapid transit, I believe, in Tyson's, out Route 7. The only way these projects work, the only way you get people into these multi-use, mixed-use developments to shop and eat and commute, is they also have to be served by roads which are both bike and pedestrian friendly. And the Commonwealth has no real decent source of revenue for bike or ped projects. We have it for, we have some sources for road congestion, we have sources for transit to some extent, but there's no dedicated source for bike or ped, and they don't compete well under Smart Scale or NVTA. How do you think the administration would feel about creating a funding source that's solely and only dedicated to bike or ped? And I'm not talking about TAP and federal money. There's some federal programs. We need billions, not just tens of millions. Yes, you do. And so I'm just curious what the administration's position would be, at least on creating a funding stream for bike and ped.
Senator, I can't answer that question today. I'm not trying to make an excuse here, but I got a little bit of a fire hose going on, so I'd be happy to get back to you. I will say this, and I'm familiar with some bike work down in my community. Back to the metrics piece, I think it's very important. I'm all for bikes. I still have the 10-speed that I got in junior high school. That's a really long time ago when 10-speed just became sort of the thing. I still have that bicycle. The tires don't support me so well anymore, but I still have the bike, and it's pristine. So I love bicycles, but I don't want to build bike lanes that people don't use. And I think we need to be very careful that we spend these monies, whatever amount of money we have, very carefully and very wisely. If they're going to use the bike lanes, I'm all for it. If they're not going to use the bike lanes, I'm not for it. I'd say the same thing about roads, tunnels, bridges, transit, or anything else. We need to have good metrics. We need to have return on investment, and that's what I'm about.
Great. Appreciate you being willing to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the panel?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Staff.
There we go. Sorry. Well, Shep, I'm very honored and pleased to serve with you. It's great serving with you on the transition team. And I'm so happy that Gigi decided to kick your butt out of the House and send you up here. I'm also pretty happy that the last couple of speakers have pointed out the shortfalls from your predecessor. And I know you'll see these shortfalls and challenges as opportunities. Opportunities to look at a path, set that path forward, and solve the problems of the past. And again, I don't think there's a better person that I would rather have standing up there today in front of us and sitting in that seat to take care of that. I think you're going to be a great Secretary of Transportation. And I can tell you a lot of guys from Hampton Roads are very proud of you. And again, I'm glad my peers up here have pointed out some of the shortfalls and some of your challenges. And I know you'll see those challenges as opportunities. And I'll tell you that the Senate is very happy and proud to work with you to solve those problems and take on those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Boysko.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Secretary. We're so happy to have you here and look forward to working with you, and glad that you have a transportation background. I serve on the NVTA as the Senate's representative, and you are probably well aware that some legislation a few years ago shortened our budget by about $102 million a year. I think some people have some heartburn hearing about the change in revenue on our gas tax, because not only will it affect the state's revenues, but it will also affect the localities' revenues. And you've heard a lot from folks. So I'm just wondering, how do you propose that we collaborate and work together to make sure that we're not leaving our localities with the short end of the stick?
I'm going to give you sort of a general answer, ma'am. I'm all about collaboration. I'm all about understanding. You understand a lot of things I don't understand yet, and I'm sure I understand things that you don't understand yet. So I get smarter by surrounding myself with people that know about things I don't know about. I'm all in on that. So I'll do everything I can to hear everything I can, to be everywhere I can, to understand what your needs are and what your constituents' needs are.
Thank you so much. And one more question, sir.
Senator Boysko.
So I also have the great honor of representing the area that Dulles Airport exists in. And, we have really made some major investments over the past few years. I'd like to just hear what your thoughts are on as far as, the commitments to making sure that Dulles Airport and National Reagan are continue to be the economic engines that they are and are the leaders in this region.
Yes, ma'am. MWA is extremely important. Dulles and Reagan. We're working right now with the major airlines there. Had a call just yesterday. I'm talking to them about how do we grow the human and freight cargo through those airports. I know they're interested in expanding. I know they want to do some more there. We want them to do there. We've talked about leakage. I talked about that a little bit. So those are huge economic hubs for our Commonwealth, and we've got to protect them and grow them. And I think the governor and the team is focused on that. And so I'm all in for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. You've got assembled a great team to work with you. Very excited to collaborate with you moving forward. I did want to express, I guess, a couple of similar concerns, and I don't mean to repeat, but anything that sort of changes funding formulas for transportation raises the shackles, because my district in Prince William County has some of the longest commute times in the nation. And so when we talk about what folks really favor, well, whether it's a cut in gas tax or being late to pick up their kid from daycare, those things that matter daily. And I talk to people from New York to Florida, they know exactly where the Occoquan Bridge is. They don't need to know anything else about Virginia, but they know the Occoquan Bridge, they know Prince William Parkway, because it's jam-packed 7 days a week. There's no rush hour, it's rush 24 hours. And so, I just want to raise that concern that we've got to be smart. In fact, JLARC just published a report this past November, a 147-page report, denoting the fact that our investments in increased revenue and investments in transportation are starting to make a difference. However, it notes that we still have deficient structural bridges. We still have local roads and deficiency in rural significant roads as well. And so for my constituents, I just want to make note, I've had 2 stormwater structures collapse in the last 3 years, cutting off residents for weeks at a time because of substandard maintenance and checking on significant structures where we have underwash and washout, leaving our residents trapped within having to do runarounds for weeks and weeks on end. This is not just isolated to my district. Those are the things that also make a difference when you talk about impacting people's lives and family lives and disruption of lives. And so I hope that as you look at those considerations, I've done plenty of 6-year and 10-year CIPs, and what I do know is the things that you don't fit within the middle, they get pushed out. And we all know there's a lot of things not within the 6-year plan because there simply wasn't projected money at the time, but we certainly know there's a lot of backlog. We get daily emails on the Robert O. Norris Bridge, many other things, I-81, I traversed multiple times, all 300-plus miles. There are so many significant needs. Anything that jeopardizes moving us forward and helping our families and our businesses moving goods and services is a big red flag for me. And so I know you've got your marching orders from your boss, but understand that I think you'll find some people that have considerable concerns, whether it's ditches, ditch maintenance, to stormwater structures, to major initiatives like the Long Bridge and Rail Transportation, long overdue in Virginia. Those impact our future and business and our families, and I hope we're not short-sighted for a short political win versus the long-term investment we need here in Virginia. So I appreciate it. You do have a fantastic team. Excited about your background and working with you, but just wanted to note some caution there. So thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, sir.
So I've noted your comments, and I would just say one thing. I have a farm on the Rappahannock River, and every morning I wake up there, I look right at the Robert O. Norris Bridge. So I'm very familiar with it, and I use it a fair amount. I'm familiar with what you're talking about, sir.
Thank you. Senator McClellan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller, and thank you for joining us today. I want to start by saying I see one of your predecessors in the audience, Pierce Homer, and I think he would agree, as you probably would agree, that you're coming in dealing with decades of transportation policy, much of which was set by this body and not necessarily the previous secretary or administration, and I think we all appreciate that. I wanted to pick up on something you commented on. One of the biggest frustrations I have as a member of this committee, also serve on the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, and you inadvertently played into that, is how transportation policy always seems to be centered around cars. And yet we have seen trends, we have seen desires to begin to shift away from cars, because I think we all understand we will never build enough lanes to end congestion, that part of our transportation policy has to be how do we get people and goods moving, and cars may not necessarily be the best way. And I recognize that transit ridership has had its challenges, particularly with COVID, but I think you'll see with the city of Richmond in particular, and Governing Magazine wrote an article about this in August, they actually saw their ridership increase to 2019 levels through a free rider program. But some of the challenges that our transit, not necessarily metro, but thinking more about the regional bus transit, is the challenges with getting enough people and routes so that each route is efficient and can get people where they need to go on time. Part of the challenge with transit is I don't know if it's going to be as reliable if the people and the routes aren't there, particularly reaching those neighborhoods where people don't have cars. So I say all of that to say I really hope that in your thinking, even though you started with highways and cars, that you're really starting to think forward about, and COVID, I think, presents this opportunity, how do we shift some of our priorities to move people and products through rail, through transit, through ports, which you talked about, but not just focusing on cars and highways. And so thank you for listening to my pet peeve.
No, I hear you, ma'am, and I appreciate what you say. I'll tell you something. I was in Denver a few weeks back, New Year's Day, when this job thing came up, New Year's Eve day, and I was taking a train to the airport. And if you've ever been to Denver, you know the airport's like in another state away. And I rode an Uber in from the airport because it was simple and easy, and it cost me $165. I was like, I had 3 people, so I couldn't get the little one. I had to get the big one. But it was $165. And there was a train right next to the hotel, and it was $5 or $6 or $7 to go to the airport. So I trudged over there with our suitcases as we were leaving. I got the family. We've been at a wedding. Through the snow, we get in there, and it says 19 minutes. Fine. Then it went to 28 minutes. Okay. Then it went to 4 minutes. Okay. Then it went to 9 minutes. Okay. Then it went back to 2 minutes. I mean, it changed like 8 times, and none of them were right. And I was frustrated and getting nervous because I got to get to the airport, and I've never done this before. And how long is it really going to take? And what else is going to happen? And it made me reflect on that Uber ride that was way too expensive. But I got an app on my phone, and I can see where the car is. And I can see when it's showing up, and I can see when it slows down. I can see when it's delayed. And I'm thinking, we've got this massive train system, and I don't know when it's coming. It just, so I'm telling you this because I think there's a role for technology in here too. It's not just being on time, it's knowing. And, there's been some pilot projects other places. Will we do them here? Perhaps. Or in some of the areas that are less serviced, that the bus may not be the right way to do it. Maybe it's an Uber kind of thing. Maybe it's something like that where we can be there on time, pick somebody up, and take them where they need to go. And it costs us less than a bus that's got 6 people on it. I don't know the answer, ma'am. I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm committed to try to find the best answer for the Commonwealth because people need to move. They need to move to go to work. They need to work. They need to move to go to play, and that's our job.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Miller. Any other questions? Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate you being here today. The Hampton Roads delegation has said so many nice things about you. Senator Newman said so many nice things about you after your announcement. And my colleague who's now presenting bills in one of our many subcommittees, Senator Peake, had really nice things to say about the time you two served together on the CTB. And today's my first day getting to hear from you, and I've been very impressed with how reasonable you've been to all these different questions. It's sort of fascinating hearing, all these criticisms of how bad Virginia must be. I don't know who's been running this state the last 8 years or who had absolute power the last 2 years. But I'm glad something must have changed because it sounds like things were terrible. And but I think that you've been very reasonable in taking these questions today. I'd just like to renew what the senator from Lynchburg, Senator Newman, said about the gas tax. A lot of folks appreciate what Governor Youngkin has proposed on that. And, sitting through each of you and your colleagues' presentations, it's kind of amazing how Governor Youngkin could have been elected on his platform, given all the criticisms I hear of it in each one of these. But the gas tax relief is something that resonated with a lot of people in my part of Virginia on the 81 corridor, where every 2 or 3 years we're asked to pay new taxes for transportation. Every few years there's a new transportation tax that comes down the pike to us, and we're asked to pay it. And constituents of mine in Floyd and Franklin really did not appreciate the last one, being told that because they lived in a county that was adjacent to another county that had 81 run through it, that they had to pay an extra fuel tax. But another county, because it just wasn't in the right transportation district, did not have to. And there is tension in my part of Virginia about the significant number of taxes, and they are appreciative of Governor Youngkin's offer of some relief. I appreciate you offering the dollars and cents explanation of why that's a reasonable thing. I understand we'll have that debate in the legislature, but I appreciate your fortitude on the issue.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. I think that's that. Let me leave you with this thought, Secretary Miller. Sometimes it's just as important as how we communicate and how we reach out to Virginians and bring them to a common understanding is just as important as what we do. And I always have it's kind of an exaggerated metaphor, but when I sit down with my constituents who say, Dave, just raise the gas tax 10 cents, nobody will notice. And I said, well, I'm afraid that's not true. I said, we all drive an hour to work. Our friends in rural Virginia sometimes go an hour in a pickup truck. We go an hour we go 12 miles in a Prius. They go 40 miles in a pickup truck. In our minds, what all of us have is health care, shelter, food, hardwired into our heads. That's a kitchen table configuration. But in other parts of Virginia, there's a fourth thing, which is the price of fuel and the ability to get around that we don't feel in Northern Virginia. And people are kind of stunned to hear that, but we have a very divided Commonwealth regionally. And part of that problem is not understanding the needs. When it's campaign time, I have seen identical brochures where a whole bunch of arrows are going from Hampton Roads to Northern Virginia saying, this is where all your money's going. And in Northern Virginia, they have one with arrows pointed down to Hampton Roads saying, this is where all your money's going to go. And but it is, communication and getting people to understand is as big a part of the job as the technical aspects of moving people from A to B. And I thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate it, and I hope you can, as we discuss, stick around. And our first bill will have some information for you that we're hoping that the administration can weigh in on. And with that, thank you very much, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege and honor, and I appreciate you having me. And I will stick around, sir.
All right, there you go. Senator Boysko, Senate Bill 455. We're going to go out of order here, and then we'll get to Senator Deeds. But we want to hear this bill, and we're not going to vote on this bill today. We're going to give the administration an opportunity to react, but we do have a number of folks here to testify. So let's get through this part of it, and then next week we'll just let a quick summation and we'll vote. Senator Boysko, the floor is yours. Senate Bill 455.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Mr. Secretary, so glad you're here. Senate Bill 445 would open up consideration to see if the Dulles Greenway would be appropriate to move to a public-private transportation project instead of the Highway Corporation Act. It would provide that the Commissioner of the Highways, in consultation with the Secretary of Transportation and the Secretary of Finance, would evaluate whether or not it is in the public interest for the roadway within the Commonwealth to be transferred. Such an evaluation of the public interest should consider the applicable commercial and financial terms and enhancements to any roadway, including implementation of distance-based tolling and tolling from one end to the entire other end, benefits to the commuters that such a roadway and opportunities for a reduction in toll rates would be in the public interest. We've been doing some studies over the past few years in the administration, and we have, according to that analysis, distance-based tolling could result in a 50%, I'm going to take my mask off, could result in 50% reduction. It's currently $5.80 now. It could go down to $2.90 in current toll rates in the eastern end of the road, and $1 to $2 reduction in toll rates. It's currently $5.10 to $4.10, down to $3.10 on the west end. We have some constituents who spend upwards of $500 a month getting to and fro their jobs, which I have always found absolutely unacceptable. The way this would be done would be moving it from the Highway Corporation Act to the PPTA process. And let me just give you some examples of other successful PPTA projects. The 10 Route 28 grade separations, so getting rid of all the traffic lights on Route 28, which is also in my district. The Dulles Metro Rail extension. I-495, their high occupancy toll lanes, the 66 high occupancy toll lanes, the 95 high occupancy toll lanes, and the I-395 high occupancy toll lanes. That process has worked. It has been good fiscally for the state. We have concessionaires who are joining in to help cover the costs, and it's actually fiscally responsible. This has been a success, and I have several people here who are supporting the bill. My understanding is that the premium beer distributors of Virginia are supporting it, the Nova Chamber of Commerce supporting it, the Northern Virginia and the State Virginia Association of Realtors, the Loudoun Chamber, the Nova Chamber, and the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance. And I believe that they would like to come and make some comments.
Thank you, Senator Boysko. Let me ask you: is it anticipated that the reduction in the tolls will increase the traffic on the Greenway?
I think it would, and I will tell you because I live right there. That is my district. I have been on the highway a number of times where I can count maybe 4 other cars, in my view, on the whole highway, and that obviously we've seen a great slowdown in traffic during COVID, but I also drive on Route 7. I also ride on Route 28, which are kind of the other north-south roads. This is a desert, basically. It's a ghost town, and in order to get better use of all of the roads, I believe that having this be less expensive, people not having to spend $500 a month, seems like it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that a lot of the stakeholders who actually have businesses who, they're using it on a daily basis as well. So I live in the town of Herndon, and in order to get to Leesburg, which is the other side of my district, I can take the toll road and it can take me about 15 to 20 minutes. I can leave from my house. It can take me in rush hour traffic more than an hour to get to Leesburg if I don't take the Greenway. I would like to have that option, and I know that my neighbors would also like that option to have a more affordable opportunity to take the
Thank
Greenway.
you. Before you have witnesses, we have questions from the committee.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Sproul.
No question. I'm not speaking for the secretary. You asked him to stay, and sometimes the people from North Virginia who I love the most love to talk. And they stay a long time. And I'm hoping that you don't have him to sit there a long time. He was so gracious to say he would do it. But North Virginia, people from the other state, North Virginia, they love to talk. He'll be here all night. So I'm hoping you don't hold him to stay here because he says so. I hope you can let him leave when he see fit that he wants to leave.
Well, Senator Spruill was hoping that he could listen to this important bill because the administration has a key role to play in it, unlike some of the
If
other.
you can do it in 15 minutes, I can understand, but you know who's talking.
All right, there you go. Any other questions from the committee? Senator DeStaff.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Boysko, I'm familiar with the Route 7 option here, and I know that it's very congested. And as an opportunity, you can pay to get on the Greenway.
Correct.
I believe there's a couple of other opportunities or options up there, and Route 7's free, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Route 7 is free and Route 28 is free.
Got it. And I think when this came up last year, there were a lot of questions back and forth, and there was a lot on the financial aspects of this that were in the committee and then outside of the committee, and both sides had their opinions, both sides had facts. I think it's probably, the committee will probably want, or some of the members will want a refresher on the details of the financial aspect of this. I personally believe that somebody who went in and spent at the time, I think it was hundreds of millions or $1 billion+ on doing the Greenway, they should be able to charge because it was privately done when there were other free alternatives. I personally have used the Greenway on multiple times. Matter of fact, every time I go up there and test drive a certain car from a certain dealership, I hit the Greenway because I know that I can go a little bit faster and there's never any congestion. So I hope that in the testimony over the next week or whenever this is going to come up for a vote, that we have the opportunity to really get the details and the cost associated with this, and we really can make truly informed decisions. So,
thank you, Senator DeStaff.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the patron from the committee? If not, would you bring forth your witnesses? Those who are in favor of Senate Bill 455, please
Yes.
step up, tell us
Yes,
who
sir.
you are and who you represent.
Thank you, Chairman Marsden and Senate Transportation Committee. My name is Al Christian. With Premium Distributors of Virginia and Reyes Holdings. We're a large employer here in Virginia. We put 500 vehicles on Virginia roadways every day. I also live in Loudoun County since 1989, so I'm very familiar with this piece of property. But I would like to thank Senator Boysko for all of her activities on taking this head on. We're not about eliminating tolls or not paying our fare, but a couple things I wanted to throw out to the committee, and then I'll let the next person speak, is one, for one of our vehicles to use the toll road, Mr. Chairman, it's $22 each way. So that's $44 going back and forth. Since then, because our drivers are our commercial drivers and they have to watch their time, we take them off that roadway. So to the earlier question, do we think that that's going to increase? Yes. I was part of the 28-7 when you were kind enough to get the funding to remove the traffic lights, helped. But now we're back to gridlock. There's only 4 ways. There's Route 7, Route 50, Route 28, Route 66. That's it. So what's happening is those are becoming gridlock again. Let me give you one last example, and then I'll pass on. The last example that I have for you is a young lady she's a friend of our family, single mother. She lives in Leesburg, Virginia, and she has to go into the district every day for a $62,000 a year job. Why? Because it's great benefits, and she can pick up her child and all these things that any parent would look for. She pays $613 a month, approximately, in tolls to go do that job. That's 1/10 of her salary. So that road was intended to alleviate gridlock. That's what it was sold to us back when it first came in, is we're going to give you an option. Well, I don't use the toll road anymore, and I have expendable income just for the simple fact that I'm willing to pay a toll, but let's make them reasonable. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jason Stanford. I'm the president of the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance. For more than 30 years, the Alliance has been the visionary leader for regional transportation solutions in Northern Virginia that improve our quality of life and economic prosperity. We support this legislation because This is actually one of the Greenway is one of the original, transportation improvements that the Alliance advocated for back in the early 90s. It was a revolutionary public-private partnership, but we've seen those projects and those agreements evolve over the last 30 years. We've seen a lot of change. And ultimately, the ability to do distance-based tolling will be a benefit for our residents of Northern Virginia, for the businesses of Northern Virginia, and that's why we support this legislation. The Loudoun Chamber, the Nova Chamber, the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors are all supporting this important legislation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Next, Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Clayton Medford of the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, asking that you support this bill. We believe that the arrangement proposed in the legislation has the potential to unlock a lot of underutilized capacity. As you heard a lot from other speakers and from Senator Boysko, the current arrangement results in a tolling structure that pushes people off the Greenway and onto other roads. And so time is now, we think, to move it to a different structure and hopefully get some people back on that road. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Senators. Mary Beth Coya with the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. We represent 13,000 members in the greater Northern Virginia area. They're not all on the road at the same time, but they are on the road a lot. And we know that when homeowners are looking at this, they do look at the toll road. They do look at the cost. We are having a lot of cut-through traffic, I know, to other roads. So we support the opportunity to look into this further. We obviously recognize that the owner needs to make a profit, but if some adjustment can be made for distance tolling and lower prices, we support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Coya. I guess at this point in time, excuse me. Yeah, we have two folks in the virtual world who would like to speak in favor. If you could each take 1 minute, I'd appreciate it.
Gwen Pangle, you may unmute your microphone and begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Eric Fryer with the Dulles Area Association of Realtors, and I'm here today to speak in favor of Senate Bill 445. There's no denying that many Northern Virginia commuters simply cannot afford to travel on the Dulles Greenway. In fact, the average round-trip commuter could spend more than $4,000 a year in toll costs. And for our association's members who need to conduct business daily in all parts of the county, that amount can be much more onerous. So we firmly believe that it's in the public interest to not only reduce the costs of these tolls, but implement a long overdue distance-based pricing system. And we think that this bill is going to facilitate the process for these changes to occur. And we fully support its passage when it comes time to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Is Ms. Pangle?
I think I finally made it on.
Oh,
Can
right.
you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Keep it to 1 minute if you could, please.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Gwen Pangle. I am the current chair of the Government Affairs Committee at the Dulles Area Association of Realtors, and I'm also a lifelong resident of Loudoun County. I'm here to express my support for SB 445 because distance-based pricing is long overdue on the Dulles Greenway. We as realtors, homeowners, and commuters alike depend on affordable, accessible roadways to travel through the county, and the Dulles Greenway has consistently cast an undue financial burden on Loudoun and Northern Virginia residents. I hope you will stand with your constituents and the residents of Northern Virginia in passing this crucial piece of legislation. And I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. All right. Those in the audience who are in opposition to the bill, could you please step forward? Please introduce yourself and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Megan Ryan. I'm with the Virginia Coalition for Open Government. I do not have a dog in this fight. I am not from Northern Virginia. I do not know what's best for Northern Virginia. But what I do not like, and which I did have the chance to speak with the senator about, is the codification of a mandatory non-disclosure agreement in the code. This bill sets up tiers of information. The NDA would be required between the Commissioner of the Highways and the Chair of the Board of Supervisors, but not with the other members of that Board of Supervisors, meaning that you do have tiers of information that we think should be made on a case-by-case basis. If confidentiality is needed, there are existing exemptions within the Freedom of Information Act that they can take advantage of. But we just don't like a precedent that's setting mandatory non-disclosure agreements. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, Senator Eben, you have a question.
For the witness, does this differ from the existing PPTA Act? Do they not have similar provisions?
I think they are authorized to enter into them. They are not required. It's my understanding, and I apologize if that is incorrect, but my understanding is that they're authorized but not required.
If you could review Mr. Chairman, if I might follow up.
Please.
If you could review the bill by next week and just let us know, compared to the existing PPTA, what would be needed to align it, if you would just prefer the word authorized, if that would make it parallel or otherwise.
I could do that, Senator. I would just fall back, though, on the fact that, no one is ever really prohibited from putting in an NDA. It doesn't need to be in code necessarily, but also the existing Freedom of Information Act exemptions already apply.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mr. Secretary, Clark Lewis, Trotman Pepper, representing Loudoun County. We would like to thank the concept of lowering distance-based tolling on the Greenway, something obviously that Loudoun County is interested in and very interested in. It's been discussed and looked at for several years. What we have concerns, and why we respectfully oppose the Senator's bill, and we've spoken to it on several occasions, is the end product is where we want to be, lower tolls, distance-based tolling potentially to get us there. Our concerns is the process that we're contemplating for getting there. Now, last year, I spoke to many of you in this committee considered the Virginia Highway Corporation Act, which is the act that currently regulates the Greenway and the setting of tolls, and we passed landmark legislation that took several years to get done that had greater oversight for the Greenway as it relates to tolls and refinancing of debt. I've never been a believer that just because you passed a bill last year means that you shouldn't look at a better option for a toll road for this year. And this year, the better option is the PPTA. Now, the PPTA has been around since 1995. The concept of distance-based tolling has been around for many years, as I've said. And I have a lot of involvement with the PPTA. And what I do know about it is in the early days, and the Secretary, many of you know, the PPTA was used to sort of throw those troubled projects, those projects that had a lot of debt. They had a lot of problems. There weren't political will. There really wasn't a way to pay for them. So let's use the PPTA. And what is the PPTA? It is a procurement tool. Procurement. Do you know how you get the best deals in the Commonwealth of Virginia? It's competition. There's no competition in this bill. What we normally see under the new PPTA guidelines is a private vendor responds to a solicitation by the Secretary, who has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, their office, making sure everybody understands what you're getting in for, what the deal is about. Private sector teams then respond to it, and what do? They compete against each other for the best price, the best solution. And guess what else happens? The Commonwealth runs a parallel track to say maybe we can do the same thing better or cheaper than these private sector teams. And at the end of the day, you get a result. And you know what that result for? It's not for 2 years. It's not for 5 years. But when you're talking about toll roads, it's multi-generational. To make sure the comprehensive agreement that's signed lasts not for 2 years, that may be a lower distance-based toll, but for several years. All that information I've talked to you about is not present in this bill. It doesn't exist. We're simply saying give the new administration, give all the stakeholders time to work on this. And if there's an idea that can be put to paper with more than just an agreement to agree on something in the future, we're all for it. So respectfully, and I use this analogy and it's a poor one, but when you go to a restaurant and you order something, you see a chicken dish, you want to know what's on the description of the dish and you want to know the price. There's no description and there's no price. All we know is we're getting something, and that's our opposition and our concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lewis from the committee? Senator DeStaff.
Mr. Chairman, and again, I just want to better understand this, and I believe it's for Mr. Lewis on this. I have two quick questions, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. First of all, can't the current arrangement or agreement include distance-based pricing? If not, why?
The current one?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm not privy to it. I know in 2019, there was a study that was done on the feasibility of purchasing the Dulles Greenway, and distance, it's not apples to apples, and I'm not holding it out to be, but there is a discussion on distance-based tolling in here, and some of the concern was the considerable debt that the Greenway has presently.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Senator
quick
DeStaff.
follow-up. So, I'm assuming, or can somebody just verify before we actually have to vote on this, if the current agreement does or does not, in fact, include distance-based tolling? And then my second question, Mr. Chairman, is very simple. Is the owner or operator of the road, are they here today? Or does somebody represent them here today? Because I'd like to know what they want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Welcome back, Mr. Homer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Pierce Homer. I'm an independent director on the Dulles Greenway Board of Realtors. We can answer lots of questions about the PPTA, and I believe Senator Boysko talked about the success of that procurement technique in Northern Virginia. Route 28, Dulles Rail, 495, 95, the list goes on. It is the procurement method of choice for the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel because it works. And specifically, Senator, to your question, could you have distance-based tolling under the current arrangement? The answer is no. And the reason for that is it requires a very significant private sector investment. Technology of a loan to implement is $30 to $40 million. And then there is the issue, if we want to have toll reduction, we need to find ways to buy down and manage the very significant debt. I'll also add, the current ownership team has been there for about 3 years. They inherited zero coupon bonds. It's a very unwieldy, really outdated debt structure that doesn't happen much anymore today. So those things weigh down the ability of the Greenway team to offer either distance-based pricing or lowered tolls overall. And what you need to do that in order to get the private sector investment is a long-term commitment on tolls that spans the duration of the concession. And under the current legislation, the toll rates are subject to annual review by the State Corporation Commission. There is simply too much uncertainty for any private investor, infrastructure, mortgage, whatever, in order to accomplish distance-based tolling and lower tolls.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just ask
Yes,
someone
certainly,
one last
Senator
question.
DeStaff.
So, Mr. Homer, and again, you represent the owners of the road, correct? So you're actually in support of this bill, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that clarifies that. And then one last question, maybe comment. I think I brought this up last year, and I understand that it was back and forth a lot last year. But if Loudoun County or if somebody has an issue with the price they're paying for tolls, there's the opportunity to come in and buy the asset, right? So if you want to go with lower tolls, buy the road and then set the tolls to whatever you want, and then it's your road. I think that we need to look at this from both sides, and I do understand that you guys are actually now in support of this, where I think last year you were not. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, sorry to trespass on the committee's time.
No, thank you,
Mr. Chairman,
Senator DeStaff. Any other questions from the committee?
Could I add one more
You certainly can,
topic
Mr.
here?
Homer.
In the report the gentleman had earlier, unfortunately, these zero coupon bonds, there's over $1 billion worth of debt. The Commonwealth has been asked 3 times to look at a potential purchase. It's outside the reach of the Commonwealth. It's certainly outside the reach of Loudoun County. I would also add it's important that we not think about this as a purely local issue. This is part of the entire Dulles corridor that goes from the Beltway all the way to Leesburg. And we have similar issues to resolve. Those of you from Northern Virginia, this is a part of a regional solution to get reasonable tolls and more efficient use of existing infrastructure.
Yeah. Pierce, one of the things that had concerned me with this bill before, when the current practice is put in place, is that there were yearly, rate reviews. So as soon as you finish one, you start the next one, and it was just going on and on and on. And that was one of my concerns. Do you know what the status of those rate reviews has been? What progress has been made?
Well, the State Corporation Commission did grant a rate increase last year. That was not under the legislation that passed last year. But there will be gearing up at some point for a rate increase these are very expensive regulatory undertakings, both for the Dulles Greenway and for the State Corporation Commission. There's expert witness testimony. It's a very cumbersome process, and it's unpredictable. And again, to expect the kind of private investment we need, the concessionaire, the Dulles Greenway, needs the long-term certainty to bring in the private capital to solve these problems of distance-based pricing and lower tolls.
Yeah, that was my concern last year. Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, I guess, speaking to the bill, I heard Mr. Homer say that this is a Dulles corridor issue. There's no question this is an issue of the Dulles corridor, but I also want to point out my daughter had a travel soccer game in Loudon once at 7 a.m., and I drove there from Mount Vernon, and I went to Starbucks, and my daughter called me at 7 a.m. and said, "Dad, I brought the wrong jersey." So I called my wife, who was still in bed, said, "Can you meet me in Tyson's Corner?" She drove back. I hauled butt, picked up the jersey, headed back. It cost me $16.50 to get that jersey. Back to the game at 8 a.m. So
with every penny, right?
Okay. Well, the speed helped a little bit. I have to wait at any stoplights, but I might have been able to buy a new jersey for the $18. And I know the $6.50 of that was paying for Metro, because that's how we're paying for Metro, is by getting the tolls on the road to pay for Metro. But and only $10 of that was yours. But it's more than a Loudon issue. It affects everybody at Nova. I drive on the Greenway every time I go to court in Leesburg, and it affects all of us, but some of us more than others.
Thank you. The one thing I do know is that there's got to be a sweet spot somewhere with distance pricing that will get more people on the road, increase the revenue, even though the price is coming down. It's just basic economics, and we just don't seem to have gotten there. And the only solution seems to be ever-increasing prices to pay for things, which drives down the usage. And I'm sure there are people in Loudoun County who say, "This is the last time I do it. It's the last time I do it," and then the next day they do it again, and are unhappy with that. But so, Mr. Homer, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Spruill.
Why in the world would anybody want to live in Northern Virginia?
66 and it's $45.
Because you have a traffic jam, and it has to be some relief, and I can understand that. But you can't afford it. Some subscriber is saying $16, and someone made $66,000 a year for that for road travel. And if you keep on charging for roads, y'all won't be able to pay for the rest of the state for taxes, Scott. So we got to find another way. And I'm gonna vote for this. But don't tax us in Virginia. That's what's the term, Secretary, North Virginia to other Virginia. But don't tax us in Virginia. If you need it fixed, I'm going to vote for your bill. But I'm saying, but let y'all rich people in North Virginia pay for your own problems. And I love y'all, too. I love you.
Senator Spruill, that has been our history, paying for a lot of things in Northern Virginia that we need. That's how this whole process started, was that the rest of the state was not interested in Interstate 95 in Northern Virginia, and we had to go to the methodology of paying for it ourselves. And eventually it caught up with the rest of the state in Hampton Roads with their own regional tax structure, and now Interstate 81. And when somebody else is paying it, it's a pretty good plan. When you have to pay it, it's not so good. So at any rate, are there any other witnesses for or against this bill before I take it by for the week for the administration to review the actual language in the bill? And Secretary Miller, you're certainly welcome to stick around, but I hope the testimony has been helpful to you in terms of making the evaluation that you'll need to make. You have some wonderful people working in your secretariat who can get you up to snuff on this one, and you probably know a good bit about it already from the CTB. So thank you for being here, and you're more than welcome to stick around. So with that, Senator Boysko, can we take this by for the week? And do I need a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second to take it by for the week. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no? Okay. Ayes have it. Bill goes by for the week. Senator Deeds. Thank you so much for your patience, and
thank you for the education.
the Bath County Expressway is. We're going to talk about that next week.
This is a 301. I think there's a substitute. Is the substitute before the committee yet, or okay? Well, then it's been posted.
We have a motion and a second to move the substitute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
This comes from the Albemarle County School Board. For the last several years, Albemarle County and frankly, many of the other jurisdictions I represent have talked to me about the problems they have hiring bus drivers. So the substitute before you was developed after working with the Department of Motor Vehicles, and its current posture, it only does three basic things. Eliminates the $2 re-examination fee and 15-day waiting period for applicants for driver's licenses. My understanding is that's a $5,000 fiscal budget impact. That has a $5,000 budget impact. It permits school boards to test drivers who are employed and trained by any other governmental entity. Right now, they can only test the drivers they train. Well, that's not so efficient. And the third thing it does is it extends the number of days that the CDL skills test is valid from 60 days to 6 months. It's simply designed to be one more tool to help get some people behind the wheel of a school bus.
Excuse me, any questions for Senator Deeds? Anyone here in the audience to testify in favor of the bill?
My understanding was there was going to be somebody here from Albemarle County, but I don't know that they made it. And so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
I don't think we have a lot of opposition, but I do have to ask anyone in opposition to the bill.
Mr. Chair, we have an online speaker.
So there you go. Do we have, yes, we have in support of the bill, Helen Dunn.
She's
Helen, please unmute and give us your testimony.
Helen, are you out there? She works for the school system. She's for it.
For it.
Move to report.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to report the bill. Clerk, could you open the roll?
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Thank you very much.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill reports. Thank you for your patience, Senator Deeds. And next, I think we had on the queue Senator Hanger, and then followed by Senator Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have Senate Bill 186 in front of you today, and it's undergone some corrections actually as of today. So there's a substitute dated January the 27th. I don't know whether that's online yet or not.
We have a motion to move the substitute in a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Senator Hanger, the substitute's before us. Could you walk us through what the substitute does?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Currently, we authorize farm use vehicles. That's a category of vehicles that are used in several areas of agriculture and forestry production to transport products in proximity to a farm, to market, back and forth. And we authorize those all you have to do is display a placard that says farm use. It's caused a lot of confusion because some people, since they are readily available in some retail outlets, you can go to maybe Walmart and just buy you a placard and stick it on there. And so it's very difficult for enforcement because of that. You know, I could drive my old pickup to Virginia Beach and put one of those on there perhaps, and state troopers wouldn't know that I didn't raise strawberries in Pungo or something. That would, so they may not stop me. There's confusion, and it's recognized in the agriculture community, Mr. Chairman, because we want to preserve this ability for the farmers to have this low-cost option for vehicles that are used lots of times seasonally, and sometimes they are older vehicles that you wouldn't want to drive too far anyway. They're specialty vehicles, and so these farm use tags are used. We've come up with a solution, we believe, which, and our solution actually would allow DMV to run this program. We've looked at other options, but we came up with, in concert with the Farm Bureau and Agribusiness Council, is a method, and I believe it is supported now by the ag community, and I can't offer something that isn't because of where I live, that I would be in trouble. So what this is, you would make a simple application, the qualifying farmer, to DMV, and they have agreed to handle this project for us, and you put basic information on there. You verify you've got a certain number of acres, you have certain crops, and they will issue you a placard, which you will then display. And it's a permanent placard that you display on the vehicle, and they have a record of it. So we have a mechanism then for controlling this. Now, you have to have insurance. That's one of the requirements. It's a requirement now that you have insurance. But this method would allow us to basically control, so legitimate farm use could be continued, and those that might be violating what's going on out there would run into a problem, perhaps, if they try to display these things.
Senator Hanger, would there be a number on this farm use tag or a barcode that would ascribe to the individual owner?
That is correct. There would be a number. DMV thought they couldn't stand this up without a little bit of money. You know how y'all limit the amount of money flowing to their coffers. So they suggested a figure of about $15, up to $15. I actually thought of putting in a budget amendment and just covering it with the general fund, but it's only a one-time cost, though. So you can, if you keep the vehicle 10 years, $15 is all you have to pay for your placard. That's the program, Mr. Chairman.
Now, does this, I would assume this would need to go to be re-referred to Finance?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, Emmett, I really appreciate you bringing this in. I got to tell you, a lot of good people, even in farm country, are getting tired of the fake farm tags.
Right.
And I feared that it was all going to collapse.
Right.
Not from Northern Virginia and all those guys. It was really probably going to collapse from some of our areas where the abuse was taken care of. And that was hard for the Farm Bureau and some of those guys to do it. But it seems like to me this is the right way to do it, to preserve this long term without the public kind of coming down hard on these vehicles.
Right. Mr. Chairman, the Farm Bureau, those folks have been here. I don't know whether they're still here. Well, Andrew's here, back here.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yeah, we appreciate the patron putting this bill in and working with us, and we think this is the right thing to do. As the senator said, we don't want to lose these exemptions. You know, a lot of these vehicles are only used a few weeks out of the year, and so we really appreciate this and think this is the right way to go. And our members do, and the Agribusiness Council asked me to induce their support as well.
Andrew, so what you're telling me is that the Farm Bureau is asking for regulation?
Yeah, I know that, and I've been hit with that question a few times, but we do. We think, with this one, it is the right way to go.
All right,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chair, we have an online speaker, although I don't know their position.
Oh, okay. Well, let's hear from them. If they could take 1 minute to, could Elizabeth Hobbs unmute and give us your best 1 minute on whether you support or are opposed to the bill?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hobbs with the Virginia Sheriff's Association, and we support this bill.
Well, there you go. Got law enforcement, too. Mm-hmm. We have a motion to report.
Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
And we have a motion to report and refer to Finance. All those in favor, could you open the rolls? All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
15-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There you go.
Members of the
Thank you.
committee.
All right. Senator Barker. Thank you for your patience.
Certainly, it was good to hear the Secretary Designate for Transportation, since I'll be dealing with a lot of those issues. The bill that I have for you today is Senate Bill 345. It is the substance of the only changes in terms of new language is at the very end of the section of the code dealing with licenses, et cetera. And it goes from lines 80 through 89. So that's where it does provide the information there. What this does is it would provide an opportunity for individuals who wish to have their blood type listed on either their driver's license or an identification card. So it might be something that could be done for people who have bleeding problems, hemophilia, those types of things would be significant there, where it would be potentially helpful for them to have that. And it was actually brought to me by a group of high school students in Fairfax County at one of the high schools in their government class, and did a lot of research on it. It's something that would be a potential benefit to the emergency medical services in a limited number of situations, but it's not extensive. Most times they would have, the rescue squads would continue to be able to transport people to the hospital for issues that might be related to bleeding and transfusion and those types of things. But in other states, they have found that there are some people who would benefit when they have a major bleeding incident, and particularly if they're a significant distance away from the local closest hospital. So it's something that's not used all that often in states that have done this, but they do report that it does provide some benefit there. The acting commissioner of the DMV, Linda Ford, is here, and she has sent me an email raising a couple of issues to deal with here. These issues have been resolved in other states, and the students, and actually one of the interns I have in my office right now, have done a good bit of research on this. And, so there clearly are ways to address it. What I can do is work with her over the coming week and see whether we can reach agreement in terms of everything that's there, and whether we need to do an amendment or whether they can do it on their own to be able to address it.
Mr. Chairman?
So we do have other things, if I might just, and then we'll be happy to take a question from Senator Spruill. There's already things that are listed in other respects. Autism spectrum disorder is something that a family can do, so that you have an opportunity when there are situations where there might be something significant that could be addressed. And also, what you have is last year Delegate Rob Bell and I had legislation in that basically said provided a link for law enforcement to the to people who are likely to be resistant to law enforcement. And with that, I will answer Senator Spruill's questions. So.
Senator Spruill.
Mr. Chairman, two questions. Number one, what cost would this cost to do that?
There really is no cost. I mean, the only minor cost that would be sort of revamping the license, whether it's a driver's license or an identification card, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing else that would be.
I believe the bill would have to go to finance,
Yes.
Because there are some programming costs
There
and
are those types of
some
things
other
that
things that they're somewhat de minimis given the value that this bill could provide. Senator Spruill, you had a second question?
Second question. Is this optional? But I don't want my blood type on there.
This would be a voluntary thing. You'd not be required to do it at all. So it would only be something where the individual wanted to have that information there, and certainly, people with hemophilia would be potential users of this type of thing. So,
I don't want my blood to go to John Cosgrove. We're brothers, but not,
You blood brothers.
Okay. There you are. We have any, Senator Cosgrove?
Thank you. Senator Barker, this is going to sound stupid, but it really could happen. If I went to the DMV and my blood type is B positive, what would be the liabilities if I put down that my blood was B negative or O? Just, I made a mistake.
Well, I mean, there are ways in which other states have dealt with this. Sometimes they basically put right in there that if you made a mistake in putting it down, then, you know, the states and DMV are certainly not responsible there. There are other things that have been done in terms of saying, you know, it would not be just a statement from the individual, but you had to have a physician or some medical person be able to attribute it. So there are ways to be able to do this, and that's part of what, you know, I'll try to work with the acting commissioner on.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience to speak in favor of the bill? Is there anyone in the virtual universe who would like to speak in favor of the bill?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to the bill? Is there anyone in the virtual world who would like to speak in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chair, we have no speakers.
Move the report.
All right. The bill is before us. Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
Question for Senator Barker. Did you want this to be reported, or did you want to work on it with DMV for a week?
Well, I will work with DMV regardless of which way you want to go. It's up to the committee
Senator
as to whether
Cosgrove,
you want to just go
I spoke with Senator Barker, and if there is something that needs to be done, I'd like to move the bill out, and we can amend it on the floor.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we have excuse me, Lisa?
Yeah, yes, right.
The motion would be to report and refer to finance. We have that motion from
Yes,
Senator
sir.
Spruill. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Open the rolls.
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye. I vote aye.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill reports, and please keep us advised of your discussions with DMV, and if we need to do something on the floor, we can do that. But right now, it's off on its way to finance.
I know where you sit on the floor, so.
Yeah, you do.
By me, so.
It is. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Next, Senator McPike. I believe you have several offerings here today. If you could tell us which one you'd like to take up.
Mr. Chairman, we can start with Senate Bill 215.
Senate Bill 215. Turn your attention, panel, to Senate Bill 215, electronic vehicle titling and registration. Senator McPike, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This legislation would allow the DMV to establish a portal to transfer title between two individuals. In other words, it's casual sale, completely online. I think this is a great innovation that DMV approached me to carry, where we can start to put more transactions online. Right now, if you have to bring in a signed title as well as a bill of sale to certify, bring it into the DMV, actually physically do the transfer. This will allow that transfer to take place online. Happy to answer any questions, but this is really, I think, a great innovation as we work through the last year of needing to do more transactions online, less time waiting in long lines at DMV, and I think the team at DMV are looking at ways to innovate, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We have, hold on one moment here. I believe this bill would have to go to finance, so no, there's none that I've received information about, but I've been told by the on high that it shall go there, and so we'll do that. But it will be dealt with expeditiously, and excuse me, in Senate Finance. Senator Crawford.
I have a motion to report and refer to finance.
Okay, and anybody in the audience or in the virtual world who are in favor or opposed to the bill who would like to address it?
Mr. Chair, we have no virtual speakers.
There are no virtual speakers. Senator Newman.
Mr. Chairman, when you get to finance, I've got a kind of a universal DMV innovation pot of money that I'm working on, and this would be perfect to just kind of go in there and kind of work on it with that money. It's an RFI, actually.
Great, thank you.
Great, good to know, Senator Newman. And so we have a motion and a second to report the bill and refer to finance. Would you open the rolls? If you're in favor, vote aye. Opposed, no.
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill reports and will be referred to finance. Senator McPike, your next offering is?
Senate Bill 216, Mr. Chairman.
Senate Bill 216.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this bill is dealing with our auto dealers and warranty relationship. The current law requires automobile manufacturers to pay Virginia dealerships for warranty and recall repairs an amount no less than that of the repair parts and labor. This law has been in effect for over 25 years, and dealers are still being underpaid for warranty and recall work. As a little background, when a customer has a vehicle and it is issued and require repair, and the problem is not under warranty or recall, the customer pays the retail price. When a customer's vehicle has an issue that requires repair and the problem is under warranty or recall, the customer pays nothing. The dealership fixes the problem as reimbursed by the manufacturer, but the manufacturers manipulate the amounts paid for warranty and recall repairs in numerous ways. The manufacturers do not pay the same hourly rate as the retail customers. The manufacturers also artificially reduce the amount of time they claim is required for warranty and recall labor, and so they pay less labor hours. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, manufacturers have complete control over the price of parts and alter them to reduce the warranty and recall repair costs. It is a little bit more nuanced, but the net impact is the actual mechanics that work on the vehicles get paid less.
So, in other words, the manufacturers create the problem and then dictate the price of the solution.
That is the end effect. Now, the team has been working with folks over the last couple months to make various changes, one of which is to clarify the section to applies maintenance and other plans or programs and includes with the sale of the vehicle by the manufacturer or distributor. We've agreed to remove this provision at the request of manufacturers. Lines 19 through 22 with amendment requested by the manufacturers. This change makes clear that the burden of proof of the reasonableness of the retail amounts determined under the statute, and the amendment was requested by the manufacturers to make this a rebuttable presumption. And I guess in form, we need to adopt an amendment before the committee as well to make sure we pick all of these up, Mr. Chairman, and I would so move.
Mr. Chairman, it's a.
Could you report the amendment?
We have a substitute.
Substitute.
It's
A substitute.
posted online.
Substitute, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion for the substitute. We have a second. All in favor of the substitute, say aye.
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 All opposed? Substitutes before us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was going through a couple of those, and we did work through various paragraph changes to clarify that, to calculating a dealer's retail amount, the manufacturer should only include retail repairs. We also took the opportunity to simplify language within lines 31 to 45. And again, lines 110 to 112, this change will specifically require a full reimbursement for a rental vehicle, and that's one of the key facts, where the manufacturer requires a dealer to provide one to a customer as a part of that warranty work. So right now, manufacturers will reimburse only a low set dollar amount per day, not the actual charges. So with the current recent surge in rental vehicle charges, dealers have been left covering substantial charges for customers' rental vehicles. In the original language we drafted, we would have covered the cost of all substitute transportation, including dealer loaner calls. The manufacturers asked that we had limited it to the rental charges. So that has been accepted in this amendment.
All right, very good.
So there's a number of other different amended changes that we think we've dealt with a number of different manufacturer requests in this, Mr. Chairman. But we do have some folks here today to speak to the bill as those with the auto dealers if there's any technical questions. But I would like to, Mr. Chairman, invite several individuals that are online from the dealership community to provide their testimony and experience as well, if acceptable. And first we have Emily Beck, Mr. Chairman, if acceptable, online. She runs her family's dealership in Front Royal in Winchester. She is the current board chair of the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. She's also a recovering attorney who's returned to the car business after practicing law in the area of customer finance issues, and would ask Emily to make some brief comments.
All right. Nothing says we can't start with virtual and then move to the audience. So could you unmute And
I believe I'm unmuted and
all right, there you go. Thank you very much. Welcome. And could you please give us your testimony? Try to keep it to a minute, minute and a half.
absolutely. Thank you so much. As chair of the Virginia Auto Dealers Association, I thought I'd take some time and just tell you some of the comments that our members have sent to their legislators asking for support of this bill. One dealer wrote, warranty and labor rates are often half of normal pay, and diagnostic time spent is not paid. So if a technician spends an entire day or even a week tearing a car apart to find an electrical issue and the vehicle is under warranty, the technician just provided a week's worth of free labor. Tell me another industry where this is common practice. Please change this and help cultivate a fair industry for both technicians and customer. Another dealer stated, I strongly feel that the manufacturer should pay at least the amount of time a consumer would pay. It is unfair for them to pay a discounted rate and for the technician to absorb the loss. So fair compensation for warranty work, this has been a long-running issue, and dealers will continue to have to fight tooth and nail for their rights. But this bill will strengthen the Virginia Code's language so that dealers can more readily pursue their rights for fair compensation. So on behalf of the Virginia's new car dealers, I ask that you support Senate Bill 216. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Senator Cosgrove, did you have before we go to the next speaker?
I'd like to hear the ADA before I speak.
Okay, but right now we have another speaker in the queue, Tim Pohanka, I believe, from Chantilly. That's one of your dealerships in my district. Tim, welcome. Please unmute.
Thank you. I'm the fourth generation of my family to work in our car business. My son, who is working with me, represents the fifth. We have over 1,200 employees in 8 locations. Senate Bill 216 directly impacts all of our members in significant ways. It's also critical to the consumers to rely on their dealers to repair their vehicles and to our employees to ensure that those repairs are done successfully. Fair compensation for the work of our technicians to our repair customers under warranty or recall is critical to their livelihoods. It's hard enough to retain good technicians, and undercutting their compensation for warranty repairs or for is only for the manufacturers. A financial benefit is unfair, especially as our technicians are being required to do extensive training for electric vehicles. I rely on you as legislators to support your local dealerships and their technicians by ensuring protections in Virginia franchise law to continue the business in the footsteps of my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. Thank you very much. Please support the 216.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Dan Bannister. Dan, could you unmute and give us your thoughts?
Hello, hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Senate. I am Dan Bannister. I'm a first-generation automotive dealer that I built my business from the ground up. I currently employ over 150 people in 2 Nissan stores in Virginia, 1 in Norfolk and 1 in Chesapeake. We as dealers cannot fight every battle with our manufacturers. We rely upon the General Assembly to enact franchise laws that will give us tools to help resist the worst examples of overreach by our manufacturers and just make them treat us fairly. This bill that you're considering today does just that. It creates fairness that dealers can rely upon to ensure we can continue to run our business and serve our communities. So please support SB 216. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you so much.
before Dan leaves, Dan, this is Senator Cosgrove. He is known as Dan the Man, where we are. And what you can't see is he's about 7 feet tall. So it's good to see you, Dan.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you, Senator Cosgrove. Senator McPike, has this problem been getting? Is this one that's been getting worse over the years in terms of reimbursement for warranty work, or has this been a stagnant, long-term problem at the same level?
I'll let others speak to it, but it's my understanding some of this has been books for decades and decades and decades. And
Mr. Chairman, I would like to speak since you asked that question.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Right here in front of me, I'm looking at something dated March 15th, 1972. And this was Senate Bill 552 that was put in by Senator Paul Manns of Bowling Green. Now, I was a senior in high school in 1972. That was 50 years ago. And basically, we're seeing the same thing year after year after year. And actually, there are some different bullets on this, but number 5 is telling This is dated 1972. The manufacturer will specify in writing the dealer's warranty, service, preparation, and delivery responsibility, schedule of compensation to be paid dealers for warranty parts, work, and service, and the schedule of compensation to be paid the dealer for this work. I've been on the Transportation Committee for 21 years, both in the House and the Senate. And we keep going over and over and over this. I mean, we have got to be taking care of our automobile dealers. They are huge employers. And to have to keep coming back is just not right. And so I thank Senator McPike for bringing this bill forward. And the only reason I wanted to hear from VADA is I want to make sure I don't quite understand your pro-manufacturer amendments. I just want to make sure there's not any blood left in the water.
All right.
Thank you.
Senator McPike, do you have anyone in the audience? I see Mr. Hall. Welcome, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Don Hall with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. And to the Senator's question, we understand the need to work together. Certainly after 35 years of being down here, I've learned that lesson many times. And so we do work with the manufacturers. We coexist. We work together. We have projects. You'll see us before this committee working together this year on things. So in the spirit of cooperation, unfortunately, we'll never resolve this problem. It'll exist long after many of us are no longer involved in this process. But we'll continue working it and to make sure we do what is fair and keeps a level playing field for all manufacturers, including car dealers. So in the spirit of cooperation, we've worked with that. We appreciate your support, and particularly the patron's support and his understanding of this issue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. We are in support. Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are in support of the amendments as the bill is before you today, and I appreciate that very much.
All right. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill? How about those in opposition? Is there anyone in the audience in opposition?
Move to report substitute.
One moment. Anyone wish to speak in opposition from the virtual world?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
All right. I don't believe this one has to go to finance, so I will entertain a motion on the bill.
Report. Second.
Move to report, and we have a second.
Second.
Could you open the rolls? Vote aye if you're in favor, no if you're not.
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill reports. And next we have Senator McPike. I think you have one more.
Yeah, Senate Bill 237.
Senate Bill 237.
And I do have a substitute to offer.
And we have a motion on the substitute. We have a motion and a second to report the substitute. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this Senate bill is as a result of a JLUC study looking at the mileage user-fee program. One of the recommendations was to ensure, and again, you might recall that this is a voluntary program as an alternative to EV vehicle mileage charge, where if you drive less than the mileage required, you can actually don't have to pay the full fee. One of the recommendations was to ensure and strengthen the requirements around privacy of data. Obviously, where you have those who are tracking and using the cars, they want to make sure that the data is sort of locked down and there's governance rules around that, Mr. Chairman. And so that is what the bill does. The amendment also, I think, took out some initial language, and maybe if the Council could touch base on a couple of those key provisions on what was in the prior language in terms of we had stricken some recommendations and just cleaned up some items as we were talking to stakeholders.
Lisa, could you
Yes, sir.
comment on that, please?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be toggling back and forth between two drafts, so just bear with me on that. But the first bill was drafted directly in response to the JLUC recommendations, and it basically said that the data collected had to be limited to what was needed and that it needed to guarantee an option to participate without utilization of location tracking, limit the data that was collected to only that necessary, require that the data only be retained for as long as it was necessary, prohibit disclosure of identifiable participant data, and then it spoke to some research purposes and having aggregate data reviewed by an institutional review board. The substitute is actually, I think, a little bit simpler and more straightforward. And this time would also say that the data needs to be limited to what's needed, and then says it's not subject to public disclosure under FOIA, it cannot be sold, it cannot be disclosed unless that disclosure is necessary for collection of unpaid fees or to the owner, and that only the department can retain, aggregate, or use the information for research purposes.
All right. Senator Boysko.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, at the request of Commissioner Holcomb, I have a bill that sounds exactly the same. It's SB 612, and it's dealing with the mileage user fee program clarifications developed by the working group.
So would you like to roll that in?
I think so. I think that might be
and
the
it's Senate
easiest
Bill
way. 612.
612?
And perhaps council could just take a look at them, but I'd be happy to. I think they're very similar.
Co-patron.
I would make that motion with Senator Boysko as the co-chief patron or whatever is appropriate.
Second. All right, just double check here, make sure that,
I am, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm reviewing it now. It didn't go through DLS, so I hadn't actually seen this bill. I'm not sure. This one actually looks like it gets into some more programmatic details, not just the privacy. And Senator McPike's bill is only dealing with the privacy, so you might want to keep them separate.
Thank you.
okay,
So
could we hear from
remove that.
Ms. Ford? Do you agree that this needs to be handled separately?
Mr. Chairman,
You do a fee collection, a couple of.
yeah, there are a couple differences. There's some ability to reimburse customers if they sell their vehicles sometime during the process. For regular registration, we give a refund to customers. That was not put in the bill originally, and so that cleans up that aspect, allows us to give a refund to customers who, again, dispose of their vehicle prior to the end of the registration period, which could be up to 3 years. And so it's largely the same. They've been essentially conformed, except for those programmatic changes.
Lisa, what you're thinking?
I agree. I think they should be kept separate. There is one paragraph in Senator Boysko's bills that is very similar to Senator McPike's, and so what we can do is go ahead and conform that one paragraph to what we're passing today, and then you have additional components.
So you will have a substitute then prepared, and we'll hear your bill, and that will be good. So thank you, Ms. Ford. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of the bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Newman.
So the data privacy, is this related to the program that Commissioner Holcomb was requested to do a while back? Is this going back and saying on that program, we're going to secure the data for that? Is there another mileage program that I don't know about, or is that it?
It is that program that you described, the voluntary program for people to sign up if they think they're going to drive less mileage.
Right.
We want to make sure, and GLR staff is here, if you have more specific questions, they did a review of that and said, hey, let's make sure we also include data privacy if they join that voluntary program.
But I don't need any more. As long as it was regards to that voluntary program, we're not going somewhere else. That's the key.
And Commissioner Holcomb, at the time before his retirement, presented to the committee on the status on that study. So this is the bill. Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
I'm not sure if this is a question on the bill or more important point of personal privilege, but a friend of mine, right there, basically bought an electric vehicle. And I would like him to tell that story and the double taxation that he is suffering under this, and that I was not aware of. And I imagine anybody that has bought an electric vehicle is dealing with that. So may I hand it over to Senator?
You may, if it informs the committee.
Well, this was actually set up as an annual price, but when you buy a new electric vehicle, like from Tesla, like I did, you actually pay a tax for road usage in the cost of the vehicle. So it's not an annual tax. This is truly an annual tax. Mm-hmm. So it seems like you're paying and paying and paying and paying.
So there's an initial tax and then an ongoing an ongoing
Correct,
tax.
but it's unrelated to this bill. He's not changing that section of the
Okay.
code.
Okay,
I
very
just
good.
don't like the other section because you're paying it multiple times.
I think we just need to be aware of it as adopted.
Yeah, it is. You know,
Mr. Chairman?
You know, these matters on road usage taxes. These bills are going to be coming before us, I would imagine, for many years to come as we adjust and try to create fairness around these issues as we transition from fossil fuel driven vehicles to which are a little easier to tax than the electric vehicles. And, you know, eventually we'll probably be at driverless electric shared vehicles and how we deal with them. And, you know, the future is such that, you know, roads are going to continue to be very, very important. And, you know, transit will be part of the picture, but, you know, we'll have an influx of cars, so we need to maintain our roads and find a fair way to tax everybody. Anyone else in the audience
Mr. Chairman?
Wish to?
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Eben.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on Senator DeStepp's comment. It was my understanding that when we passed the transportation bill under Governor McDonnell, that we instituted a $100 annual fee for electric vehicles to cover their use of the roads in lieu of them paying gas tax. I didn't realize there was a special fee on a purchase of an electric vehicle, and I was wondering if someone VDOT could clarify that if I'm incorrect or if I missed something.
I'm happy to let you answer that one.
Well, there's a fee on every new car.
Yeah, I believe we repealed that, but Senator Newman, who also purchased a couple of these vehicles, when you purchase it, you pay it.
We repealed the hybrid tax. We didn't repeal the electric vehicle annual fee.
And then I'll let you answer that one.
I don't know if
just know
someone
about
from
the
VDOT could
initial
clarify
one.
it, but
Yeah, there was a new one that was created by that transportation bill that I criticized so much.
on new cars or an annual fee?
Annual fee.
Let's go
Annual
through the
fee.
chair.
Yeah, $100.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, through the, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone in the audience here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone in the virtual world wish to speak in favor of the bill?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition? Anyone in the virtual world wish to speak in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chair, there are no speakers.
All right, the bill is before us.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to report the bill. This one does not need to go to finance. So therefore, if we'd open the roll, all in favor vote yay, opposed nay.
Senator Favola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ayes 15, no zero.
Ayes 15, no zero. The bill reports. Friendliest committee in town. Senator Boy Scout, you have one more, and then Senator Eben will take your bill up after that, and I believe that will complete the docket. Am I correct, Lisa? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, first I have an amendment. Mr. Chair?
Clerk, report the amendment. Could the staff, staff report the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, on line 19 of the introduced bill, after section 462-920.1, insert the provisions of section 462-920 shall not apply to the operation of such incident management vehicles.
Could you repeat that? Could not.
The provisions of section 462-920 shall not apply to the operation of such incident management vehicles.
All right. Do we have a motion on the amendment?
So moved.
Have a second? We have a second? Okay. Amendments before us. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The amendment is approved, and it is before us.
Thank
Senator
you,
Boy
Mr.
Scout.
Chair. Yes, so Senate Bill 450 is a bill, a similar bill to one we've seen in the past. It would authorize traffic incident management vehicles as defined in the legislation operated by persons who meet certain training requirements to be equipped with secondary flashing red and white lights to help identify traffic incident management vehicles to other motorists, and improve the safety of motorists and the traffic incident team once they've reached the site. The equipment of, having this possibility here can reduce traffic response times up to 50%. In Maryland, their Department of Transportation identified an average response time of 7.5 minutes per incident, while in Virginia, it's double that. I have a person here who will speak. You've heard this bill before. He can explain how it's different. I believe Phil Abraham from Vector Corporation is here to speak.
Thank you so much. Mr. Abraham, welcome. Tell us about the bill and why it's different than ones we've seen before that I believe have not been successful.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Phil Abraham, representing Transurban, the operator of the 495, 95, and 395 express lanes. This legislation is different from previous versions of this bill that you've seen for a couple of reasons. First, it only allows a secondary use of these red and white flashing lights that can be in the tail lights or in the marker lights. Secondly, very importantly, the amendment that you all just adopted makes it clear in response to some concerns from the firefighting community that we cannot use the section that allows someone using the red and white lights to avoid a number of the traffic laws, speeding laws, going the wrong way down a one-way street, those types of things. Those won't be applicable to these vehicles. We will have to operate within the restrictions currently applicable to these vehicles in that regard, and can only do so with law enforcement approval. As the Senator mentioned, well, first of all, the lights can only be activated when we're responding to a traffic accident or a similar emergency, so there's that restriction. In these situations, time is of the essence, and we're trying to get to the scene of the accident to prevent it escalating into a multi-vehicle accident with further injury and damage to property. So that pretty much. The other point I'd make is that studies show that for each minute of delay you can avoid, it reduces the time to get the traffic flowing again by an additional 4 minutes. So it almost every minute you get there quicker, you have 4 minutes less delay in returning the road back to normal operation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Sproul.
You said they could only be activated when there's an accident. So you saying if there's not an accident, it won't come on?
They are not permitted to use,
I know they're not permitted, but can they be turned on? I know they shouldn't use them unless there's an accident, but they can be turned on.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, yes, they could be turned on. The law prohibits them from being turned on, correct?
Second question, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Sproul.
One of my good friends say that these lights will not have some on the top, nothing on top, right?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Sproul, correct. They will not be on the top, and in fact, Transurban is going to retrofit their existing vehicles and will maintain the yellow lights on top of these. So you will be able to distinguish these vehicles from a emergency vehicle or a firefighting vehicle because they will have yellow on top.
My friend told me the truth. I like it.
All right, there we go.
Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
For Mr. Abraham, you just piqued my interest. You said Transurban is going to have these lights on their company-owned vehicles?
On their traffic incident response vehicles that are on the road, we operate those vehicles for VDOT on the express lanes, correct. This one's when you're on the express lanes, you see these vehicles just like you see vehicles on the regular interstates that are operated either by VDOT or their contractors.
And for Senator Boysko, Mr. Chairman?
Senator Cosgrove.
Senator Boysko.
Yes, sir.
Are there sirens in this bill?
I'm not aware that there are any sirens in this.
No?
That's not my understanding.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else here to speak in favor of the bill?
Loudoun County is here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jennifer Wally with Troutman Pepper on behalf of Loudoun County. We would like to echo the comments by Mr. Abraham and thank the senator for her hard work on this bill. This is something that Loudoun has supported for many years, and we urge you to support the bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wally. Ed, come on up.
I was going to tell her something else. Roll Tide. Hey, my daughter owns part of the beer halls down there, I think. So, Mr. Chairman, Ed Rhodes with Virginia Association of Rescue Squads and the Virginia Ambulance Association. I think the good senator remembers that I've opposed this bill probably the last 2 years or 3 years. But during the day-to-day, and especially before this meeting started, Mr. Abraham and I sat back in the back of the room and basically rewrote that amendment. There was some issues on which code section. I've taught the EVOC course, or the Emergency Vehicle Operators course, for about 15 or 20 years, and we always teach 46.2.920, and that has all the exemptions in it. And we finally got it worked out, and Ms. Maxwell from VDOT helped this morning a little bit, doing some explaining. But we like the bill now. I've talked to 3 of my EVOC compatriots within the Rescue Squad Association. They are the course coordinators for the state. And I've also talked to Dana Sherrard with the Police Chiefs Association, and she asked me, does this take care of it? And I told her yes, and she said good.
All right.
So she's at home recovering from a detached retina, and that's why she's not here.
All right.
So we support this bill in its amended form, and be glad to answer any questions.
Senator Cosgrove.
Point of order. We don't have the amendments, do we?
Yeah,
I'm looking at LIS, I don't see them.
You don't see them?
No, sir, I'm sorry. This amendment was provided just right at the start of the meeting, so we wrote it up, but it's not in the system yet. I read it out. I'm happy to read it again.
Would you read it one more time?
Sure. On line 19 of the introduced bill, after section 462-920.1, insert the sentence, the provisions of section 462-920 shall not apply to the operation of such incident management vehicles. And that section 462-920 is the section that tells emergency vehicles like they can drive the wrong way on roads and go through intersections and, do the very dangerous things. And this is clarifying that that will not apply to these vehicles.
All right.
But, Mr. Chairman, you know how much fun it is to go on the wrong way on a one-way street.
I've done it. I know. It doesn't end well.
The one item in there, it's got the education requirement for the drivers. It's either Department of Fire Programs EVOC course, and the Office of Emergency Medical Services has about 12 different courses, and the Rescue Squad Association has a course that's pretty much the state standard, and we do it with a 5-year recertification, but I think we can make adjustments to do 2 years, and that's one of those things we're going to have to sit down and talk with Transurban and the Senator and VDOT.
Okay, thank you very much. Senator McPike, this is kind of up your alley. Do you have any
Move the report. I think
all right, there we go. So,
can I hear from State Police on this, please?
Certainly.
Sorry, Ron.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Maxey, Virginia State Police. We have no position on the bill, and as long as Ed doesn't come next year asking for blue lights on his EMS vehicles, we're all safe.
There you go. Thank you, Ron. Anything from while we're at it? Anything from VDOT on this? I know, Joanne, you've been working with this.
Mr. Chair, like State Police, VDOT has no position on the bill.
All right, there you go. And anyone else wish to comment, pro or con, on the bill? Anyone in the virtual world?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to report the bill. This one does not need to go to finance. So could you open the roll?
Senator Vivola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Ayes 10, noes 3.
Ayes 10, noes 3. The bill reports. And last, we have Senator Eben. And Senator Eben, your
This is SB 281, sir.
All right, turn your attention to SB 281.
First, I'd like to offer a short line amendment on line 67 and 69. I think the clerk has it.
All right, could the staff attorney report the amendment?
Sorry, my system was being slow switching documents. On line 67 and line 69, after the word buses, insert as defined in subsection F of section 462-1508.
As defined in section?
Subsection F of section 46.2-1508.
And what that does, sir, is it just clarifies the definition of buses by referring to the appropriate code section.
Oh, okay, all those in favor, we have a motion on the amendment?
Second.
We have a second? All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The amendment's before us. Senator Evans.
Thank you.
Senate Bill 281.
Yeah, just as a way of background, Department of General Services issues statewide contracts under Department of Rail and Public Transit's direction to support Virginia's 40 transit agencies in procuring new buses on a statewide basis. And that allows transit agencies to streamline their procurement processes, saving valuable administrative resources and funding. That's especially critical to small rural providers and local governments. They're able to negotiate favorable contract terms, take advantage of other economies of scale, I should say, as opposed to having each transit agency renegotiate terms on an individual basis. But there's a problem. There's a legal issue preventing DGS from issuing a new statewide procurement for diesel transit buses and exercising the option on its existing contract for electric buses. DGS has identified a conflict between federal and state law that has meant federal funds can't be used to purchase buses, halting the current statewide bus procurement process since May of 2021. So this bill's the fix. It eliminates the requirement that manufacturers of transit buses have to attain a new manufacturer's and dealer's license from the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles and the Virginia Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, respectively, fixing the conflict between state and federal law. And this has been worked out between DRPT, Virginia Transit Association, Virginia Automotive Dealers Association, Virginia Association of Counties, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, Department of Motor Vehicles, and the Virginia Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, who have all provided technical support for the change that would allow bus procurements to go forward here if we pass this bill. And Jennifer Mitchell of DRPT is here if there are questions.
Senator Cosgrove.
This bill makes perfect sense. You know, if there's nobody in opposition, I move to report the bill.
Second.
Okay, anyone in the audience for or against who needs to speak? Anyone in the virtual world who would like to speak in favor or in opposition?
There are no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the bill has been a first and a second and is before us. Could you open the roll? All in favor, vote yea. Opposed, nay.
Senator Vovola, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Senator Eben. I believe that completes the docket. Anything else for the good of the order?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
Mr. Chairman, we talked earlier. I would like you to set up if you agree, set up a working group over the next coming year to start to deal with the way that cars are being sold online. I have a young lady in my office who bought a car from a company called Vroom. She cannot get a title. I had my chief of staff call them, and they basically told her to go to you-know-where. And apparently, we have no authority if they don't have a physical presence in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There's really nothing we can do. I tried working with the DMV commissioner, and everybody's scratching their heads. But it's not just them. I know Carvana, if you go on Google, you're going to see tons of problems getting titles from these online car dealerships. Now, it's especially important because this young lady who bought a car this way financed the car. She's stuck paying for the car. If she's in an accident in that car, who are they going to pay? She can't surrender a title if it's totaled. So it's a big problem, and it's not something we have a bill for this year, but if, with your indulgence, if you can put together a group to see if we can address this problem over the year, I'd appreciate it.
To get this thing moving, could you send me a very short letter?
Yes, sir, I'll be more than happy
to do that, and we will do just that. That sounds like a real kind of serious thing, and something we need to fix. Anything else from the committee? If not, the committee shall rise.